Today we're going to do Psalm 13. I'm just going to sing the first little bit to you. And I'll just read the rest of it. So that was verse 1 and 2. Verse 3 goes, "Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Light up my eyes, lest I sleep in death. Lest my enemies say I have prevailed over him. Lest my foes rejoice because I am shaken. But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me." So this psalm comes in 3 parts. It's a really short psalm, but each part is really, really important. And I think it kind of should shape how we pray to God. So first part is in verse 1 and 2. David is asking God, "How long will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts?" And the first part, when we pray, is to express ourselves to God, express how we're feeling. And you know what, in this case, like, it might not be the case that the Lord is necessarily hiding his face from David or anything like that, but David certainly feels that way at the moment. And in our lives, it might not necessarily be the case that God, you know, is withholding himself in some way, but we feel like that. And we feel like, "God, where are you? Why don't you speak to me? I want to feel you close." So that's the first part. Express yourself to God. And there's tons and tons of role models for this in the Bible. And you can read all their prayers and the way that they interact with God. For example, Job. He has no issues expressing how he's feeling to God. Jacob, when he wrestles with God. David, example A. The second part, first part is express how you're feeling to God. The second part, in verse 3 to 4, is there's this idea of persistence and kind of like almost arguing with God. Sort of idea, and you'll notice that Moses does this all the time in Exodus. "Consider and answer me, light up my eyes, lest I sleep in death. Lest my enemies say I have prevailed over him, lest my foes rejoice because I am shaken." And there's this idea that, arguing with God, it's kind of a weird thing. We think, "Oh no, God's too powerful and mighty, we can't argue with him." But the Bible says otherwise. Because every single person that is close to God in the Bible, in the Old Testament especially, argues with God. Even Jesus argues in a way. And at the end, you'll notice that every time that somebody argues with God, whether it's Habakkuk or Job or Jesus, it always ends with God winning. Even Jacob, you wrestle with God, you lose. It's kind of every time you wrestle with God, you lose. But there's something beneficial that comes from it, and God is not afraid to wrestle with you. In fact, when God changes Jacob's name, he changes it to Israel, which means he struggles with God. And so there's this idea in verse 3 and 4 that don't give up until he blesses you and shows you his face. Don't be afraid to even argue with God and to call out for his justice. Jesus gave a parable where he was talking about a widow who is going before a judge and says, "Hey, please give me justice." And the judge says, not right now, or whatever. And the widow keeps on going to the judge, going and going and going. And because she is so persistent, the judge says, finally, whatever. I'm tired of your nagging. I'll give you justice. And Jesus says, how much more, even though this, sinful, wicked judge would give justice to this widow, how much more will God give you justice if you are persistent in your prayers? So that's the second part, is kind of this wrestling. Don't be afraid to wrestle with God, and don't be afraid to persevere in your prayers. And then the third part at the end, verses 5 and 6, is a reaffirmation of trust in God. Even before the answer comes, even before anything has, maybe David is still in this situation. Probably, almost certainly is. But he always affirms his trust at the end. But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. And so he trusts God so much that he already knows what's going to come. He knows how God acts. He knows when he cries out to God, when he seeks God, God reveals himself to him, right? David knows by this time, if he prays to God, how long, will you forget me forever? And he's sincere and he's fully seeking God. There is no time where God doesn't answer that kind of prayer, where he doesn't show himself. It takes some perseverance, it takes some wrestling, but David already acts as if his prayer has been answered. He already, reaffirms his trust in God. And this is what real faith in God looks like. It is trusting in his character, even though you don't exactly have the answer just yet. Even though God hasn't shown his face to you just yet, David already acts and prays like God will, like it's for sure and for certain thing. And he's willing to wrestle about it, he's willing to persevere. But that's what it looks like to have true faith in God. So I just kind of wanted to share this psalm with you as kind of a model prayer when we're asking something of God, especially if we're asking for him to see his face, or we want to seek him, or like Jacob, I won't let you go until you bless me. So the first part is express how you're feeling to God. The second part is don't be afraid to persevere and wrestle. Express yourself, persevere and wrestle. And then the last part is trust. Make sure that you reaffirm your trust in God again. And